there's no such thing as work-life balance. Constant work-life reprioritization. So you wake up in the morning going, what are my priorities today?
Meet Dr. Stephanie Yeung, a prosthodontist specializing in implant and restorative dentistry. Known for her expertise in digital dentistry, microsurgical prosthodontics, and CAD/CAM restorations, she combines advanced technology with precise clinical techniques to restore smiles and support long-term oral health.
Do you think there has to be some major shift that happens before we can implement digital dentistry in a more standardized, controlled way?
If we were to distill it further, the other way I'm looking at it is that there is a bit of a paradigm shift in how you look at a patient and how you record data from the patient between the conventional and the digital world.
What's the end goal? And is it a clinical success or it's a career success?
So the way I see it is that career success is not defined by a number, it's not defined by any real metric. It's literally just, are you happy?
Elon Musk is the first one that said we could possibly pick the brains of all the best surgeons in the world and teach the robot to do the best surgery. Do you think that can happen in dentistry?
I think it's within the realm of possibility because you see that.
A very good evening, everyone. We're doing this podcast in the evening now because it's evening for Dr. Stephanie. I've got a very, very, very good friend. And my partner in crime, Dr. Stephanie, has been with me since I think it's almost 10 years now since we've graduated and we have started working on courses together, growing our careers together, growing into dentistry together, digital dentistry together. She's been my real back of what's going on in pros, what's going on in digital dentistry. So it's a real honor to have you on my podcast again. Yeah.
Well, thank you for having me on, and thank you for making me sound like the ultimate gossip magazine and all of the dental industry when it comes to products and workflows.
No, but that's not gossip. You a lot of people think that Dr. Stephanie is just a pros. She is highly, highly intelligent. I think very few people in the world realize that we all graduate from dental school, all of us. But some of us have a different wavelength, and she does. She's one of those that struck me right at the beginning. She has a different wavelength, and she's able to absorb and learn so fast. And when the minute you are able to learn so fast, you move on with new things very quickly. Yet you had the foundation of your training in USC that really kept you grounded and the people that was around you. So I've always been inspired by you. I just wanted everyone to know what your career path has been and how do you now define success?
Okay, thank you for the kind compliments.
Yeah.
And honestly, I don't consider myself the most systematic person in the world, but in a lot of ways, I'm a bit of a dream chaser. So I had the luxury of really trying to distill what I wanted out of my career over the past probably 10 years at this point, which makes me feel old. But,
You are not old.
but basically what happened is, along the way, I've learned that I need to better organize my professional life and make it more systematic so that I have more time for my personal life. And that big change actually happened about 5 years ago. But prior to that, I was basically like a tech junkie where there's something new that came out. It's not that I had unlimited budget, but I go play with all my friends, like your toys, right? So my entire thing is that somehow I have a deep sense of belief that technology has a place in dentistry in a way to make things more, not autonomous per se, but more precise and more predictable in a good way. And you can argue that for the past 30, 40 years, digital dentistry has existed. However, it's not the robust version that it is today because it takes a long time for everything to develop.
Yeah.
So actually for me, in my current iteration, my career, what I did after my family grew was realizing, okay, you know what? Maybe we don't have to do everything the way we've always done because that's the way it was taught in school.
Yes.
What if I just cherry pick everything that I've enjoyed in my career so far and kind of stitch it into my own version of what the way things should be? And so because of that, I have the luxury of working with people I really like working with. And also along the way, being able to innovate a little bit on my own as well. So something about what I do is that I only show what goes well most of the time, right? You don't know about the
bad stuff that
the
goes
other
behind.
stuff.
Yeah, we all have that. Yeah, we all have that.
But there's a learning curve for everything, and that's the reality of it. And that's what I spend most of my time working on now is just streamlining things. And the reason why I believe in streamlining things is because, again, we're gaining time.
Yes.
Time to do other things, like ride a bike, go outside. So I don't know. And for me, part of this optimization process also has taught me that it's very accessible to a lot of people now. And it doesn't require you to know deep coding or how mechanical engineering works.
Yes.
It's become very attainable in a lot of ways.
Yeah. No, I think a lot of people think that digital dentistry is a must-have or it's difficult. There is always a learning curve, and she's the one that's helping me solve a lot of problems most of the time because we buy these toys. Then after that, oh my God, what do we do with it? Like it's not functioning the way we wanted it to do. So we need people like you who really enjoy experimenting, enjoy testing things out, and enjoy doing it outside of just seeing patients.
I think that's just code for, as a prosthodontist, I like finding problems to solve. And as long as there's a problem to solve, I still have a career.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. One of the things that we got together and got to know each other very well is because as a woman in our industry, it's not as easy as you can understand. We have to balance between family life and career. How do you make that balance? And I think that's also what drove you into digital dentistry. That's also what drove me into all these projects that are going on at the back end. It's also because I wanted to be time efficient. I wanted to be able to balance things. And for the women out there, how would you advise them to move forward?
So I know this is going to sound really cliche, but the reality is that from my perspective, after a few years of doing this now, you can't truly have it all. And a hard lesson that I learned and absorbed from myself, as controversial as it sounds, is that there's no such thing as work-life balance. It's constant work-life reprioritization. So you wake up in the morning going, what are my priorities today? And you can only pick 1, 2, maybe 3 things if you're really efficient. And now we're also in this career path, which is historically based on how much we can produce hourly. So that means that time is what we're selling.
Yeah.
And if we have to maximize on how much we can do in the time allocated, not only do we have to reprioritize, but in order to actually make use of our time the most, we have to make it as efficient as possible. So, for example, from my perspective, when I got into the entire digital world of things, first, it was just out of curiosity, I'll be honest. But when time was no longer easily or readily available to me, which is after I had a kid, that's when I thought to myself, okay, how do I do more with my time? You might talk to my husband, he'll tell you completely differently that I'm terrible at time management. But generally speaking, I try my best to make it so that I can now carve out my work hours around the time that I need to be at home. So from my position, it was never really part of my career goal to be traveling every week to spread the good word about digital dentistry. But it's a happy side effect of me doing things a certain way and realizing that I'm not alone in the industry of people that want to do something similar for themselves. And I find it amazing when I hear from people going, oh yeah, now that you've gotten this dialed in, I've been able to treat patients better or more predictably. I no longer have this problem or that problem. And that actually makes me happy on the inside. Meanwhile, had I just quit dentistry entirely, which was actually an option at one point, I think I would have rapidly turned into one of those people who's actively creating new problems within the house, like physical problems, and going to the hardware store to fix it because I've created a new problem. So it's actually a good thing that I'm still working
in dentistry.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I do get a lot of joy out of creating or actually participating in developing more efficient ways of getting things done. Because at the end of it, not only do we have the gratification of having more time for ourselves, but the patients also get their time back as well. And we can actually kind of future-proof historical problems.
Yes. Well, I mean, for those who do not understand what Stephanie, or who may not understand what Stephanie is doing, maybe you would like to share what is your week like nowadays? How many patients do you see? What do you do most of the time other than taking care of Logan, which he is such a joy? But let's discuss.
So my current week right now, unfortunately, is mostly work, and then weekends I have with the family. So Monday through Wednesday, I'm usually treating patients at private practice. Most Thursdays and Fridays, I'm usually out lecturing about how the nuances and predictabilities and other details regarding the digital workflows. My personal interests are actually in the world of 3D printing provisionals and anything teeth related, because if you do enough prosthetic work, anything made of resin will break at some point.
Yes.
Or wear down at some point. Question is when. And so the ability to 3D print a replacement part is truly world changing, because now you don't lose time on your production schedule. And also, heaven forbid, because every provisional knows to do this, to break on a Friday night or a Sunday morning, you can have it ready.
Just before the wedding.
Right. Or major life event, like teeth just know when is the most inconvenient time to break, even if it's the most compliant patient ever.
That's right.
And then the next part of it is going, okay, if we can get through provisional, or what I call long-term provisionals now for some patients who have implants done, next phase a lot of times is to go on to zirconia prostheses, because the reality is that currently it doesn't make sense to cast anything in gold anymore, unless budget is truly not a problem. But our precision milling and our ability to finish things in zirconia also adds a new layer of variable that's also a different part of the digital workflow that we have full control over at this point. It's not to say that we've controlled center and shrinkage. I don't want any of you to think that, but we have a better idea and way of addressing all these different problems now that we didn't have before. So hopefully that means better prognoses.
Yes. I think we are all into looking for ways for better treatment options for patients, and that's how digital dentistry grew so fast. And with that growth, it created a lot of confusion. Where do you think we are now, given that you are in the forefront of digital dentistry and 3D printing?
That's a really good question, because to me, this is a very geographic issue. So, for example, I basically come from the land of abundance, which is the US. If there's something I want, it's probably on there. And if it's out there somewhere, if my industry doesn't already provide it through the usual sources, Amazon probably has it. But the reality is that the answer and the solutions are out there readily available to me.
Yes.
But with all the...
which you've seen on the outside of the world, and you've seen how we've suffered over the last 5-10 years.
Yeah, the access to technology is definitely a big gradient still. It's not to say that it's going to be like that forever, but it does feel like there are certain demographics or geographic regions where, unless technology becomes truly accessible to most of the population, it just generally won't appear due to, and this is for good reason, regulatory issues and things like that. So, I mean, I can't blame it on the companies for not expanding to everywhere. And also having customer support available is going to be a hard problem.
The market and demand,
Supply and demand and the ability to support the customer. I mean, those are all real problems that on the sales end, they have to deal with, that I respect. So, but the beauty of it is that at least on the CAD side of things, meaning just design end. For example, if someone were to call me from anywhere in the world and go, "Hey friend, can you help me?"
It's all available now.
I can just flip open my laptop. And everything's right there.
Yes.
But when it comes to 3D printing or milling, that's still hard, because
it's a lot of control.
Correct.
Yeah, it's a lot of control.
And for any company to have the scale to support a customer like that, requires them to have multiple languages ready. And I think every power outlet known to exist, their power plug.
Yes. Tell me about it. After using digital technology for so many years, can you imagine just last week, all because the power supply, the power plug burnt. My girls were fixing the scanner and could not get it to start, thinking that something was wrong. It was just the power supply.
And then there's also programmed obsolescence that I'm convinced exists, where every time there's a software update, somehow the device slows down.
Yes.
Or gets worse.
Yes.
So there are a lot of other factors of digital technology that's kind of like dark side we don't talk about too much. But honestly, hardware components do get older. And sometimes the software updates do kind of choke them because they're not optimized for the old product. They're only optimized for the new product, which is another customer support problem. Like if you ever look at my phone on the favorites list, number 1 is my husband in case of emergency. And then everyone else is customer support for every single hardware thing I own. So it's definitely a concern.
Yeah. But do you think we can fix this?
I mean, over time, things will get better because ultimately the beautiful thing about technology is that as long as there's someone interested in it, it'll keep getting better. And it'll also create more competition so that it becomes more accessible to the general populace, which to me is only going to make things better for every patient out there. Because essentially when it comes to rapid prototyping, so the ability to mill or print anything quickly is a game changer for most patients. Because no patient ever came to me and said, I want to see you 16 times to get one thing done.
Yeah. No patient would ever say that. No patient.
I have good relationships with my patients, but I think we can settle on everyone has something else they'd rather be doing.
Yes. Rather than sitting in our chairs. I mean, dentistry is already hard enough. Nobody wants to come.
And then you look at the historical context of it. Half of dental literature is about complications.
Yes.
And sometimes it's implants, but if you look at the complication rate for that, it's actually relatively low in the grander scheme of things. All the complications come from my world.
Yes. I'm so glad to be on the side of the wall and I don't need to figure those
the
things
prosthetic
out.
part. Like, why did things fall apart? Why are the teeth all ground down now?
The problem is now it's beginning to push back to us. When the things fail on that side, it also comes back to us.
Right.
Yeah, it ends up with periimplantitis, everything that goes on. You know, I mean, that's another big epidemic.
But then if we just sit in a circle and point fingers at each other, it's okay.
I hope not. But for the younger ones, do you think it's time? I mean, education-wise, and of course, this is what we're doing, continuing education and you educating customers as well. Do you think there has to be some major shift that happens before we can implement digital dentistry in a more standardized, controlled way rather than now it's more like a marketing gimmick for a lot of practices, for a lot of dentists, like all the pressure into it and they end up making wrong decisions and end up, burning themselves and never wanting to do it again. And thus you get these two extreme worlds that patients get totally confused. Do I go to a digital dentist or do I not go to a digital dentist?
Well, and that's funny that we phrase it that way because to me, a dentist is a dentist. Okay. However, their ability to bring in technology successfully to their office and make it and implement it is part of a big actionable strategy.
Yeah.
Right? They can buy all the equipment and not be able to use any of it.
That's right.
So if we were to distill it further, the other way I'm looking at it is that there is a bit of a paradigm shift in how you look at a patient and how you record data from the patient between the conventional and the digital worlds. It's not to say the conventional is terrible, but it is more technique sensitive and there are more steps involved in that protocol. In the digital world, currently it's more expensive to implement initially, but after you get over the initial implementation cost, you do cut down on a significant amount of technical difficulty that can ensue.
And also be able to calibrate a little bit better.
Because you can always dial it in for your own use case.
Yes.
So if you ever see me lecture, one of the first 5 slides is not about buying everything out there. It's about buying what makes sense in your style of practice and what's practical. Because everything has a learning curve to it. So unless you organically already somehow knew how to use it, maybe someday will just be a chip that we insert in our head. But until that happens, there has to be some way of implementing it successfully in order for it to make any sense. To me, the digital workflows will become more accessible once the costs come down for implementation. And secondarily, when it's there's a more, I guess, normalized way of teaching it. Just like in dental school, we had a very normalized way of how conventional dentistry was taught. Same with digital, where our goal, our job should not be reinventing the wheel. It's more so adapting it to what we know from before so that it's easy to learn now. And so hopefully that makes adoption also easier for people who don't necessarily have that background.
That's true. That's true. But do you see digital technology, of course, is moving so fast and is going towards robotics, AI, all of this is coming up. Do you think we're ready for that? Or do you think it is, it's good or it's bad?
I think it's fantastic, but it's not because I'm just a tech junkie. The way I see it is that, for example, for me, AI is like an extra assistant.
I like the word assistant though.
Yeah.
Assistant, because a lot of people are taking it as AI is my teacher.
No. It hasn't taken over my job yet. And actually, if you talk to most of my closest friends, they'll tell you that sometimes I behave like the free version of ChatGPT where I just start hallucinating answers. But
that's the problem with the younger ones. They're taking it as if it's the teacher. And
correct.
And that's where our problem is. That's why
they don't. The problem is that unless we can teach people how to distill what good information and good data looks like, it is very easy to rely on a quick search to spit out an answer that sounds mostly correct.
Yes.
Because that's the reality, is that if you haven't basically every AI algorithm or LLM is trained by a certain set of information. And the question is, what information went into it?
Yeah.
So for our AI assistants, there's always a closed system. So it's not going to theoretically should not introduce new things that we didn't already accept as fact. Meanwhile, if it's an open system or one that constantly integrates new stuff, it's very difficult to control what it's going to say to us, right? But in the world of AI, I feel like it drives efficiency when it comes to treatment planning and doing it repeatably. Because, for example, prosthodontics is almost an art form. If you talk to 100 different prosthodontists, they'll give you 100 different answers to the same question or same problem.
And 100 different philosophies of how we should practice,
Right. And the thing is that fundamentally, there is no singular correct answer in there. Everyone's correct in different ways.
Yes.
So with AI, that kind of helps distill it for general dentists or people who haven't spent extra X number of years studying every theory of restorative dentistry.
Yes.
And when it comes to robotics, it's the same idea. What's kind of funny to me is that the best users of robotic dentistry I've met played video games quite substantially at some point in their lives. But beyond that, what I'm seeing is that it's an opportunity to help rapidly teach surgeons or train up surgeons. So it's not just say that it'll make them perfect from day one, but maybe it won't take 10 years for them to reach the same level of finesse as they could do in 3 years with the help of a robot.
I mean, that brings us to a question, because I'm quite sure the AI and technology world is all hoping, and Elon Musk is the first one that say we could possibly pick the brains of all the best surgeons in the world and teach the robot to do the best surgery. Do you think that can happen in dentistry?
I think it's within the realm of possibility, because you see that there's already robotically controlled laparoscopic surgery in medicine, and they're only operating on soft tissue, so everything's moving. Meanwhile, sure, we're sitting here splitting hairs over a 0.5 millimeter margin, but the reality, it's hard. So as long as the patient is sitting still enough, it should be doable. And so that's why, to me, robotics will actually be a great supplement at some point, especially in areas where they might have a difficult time with access to care. So to me, as long as it's technology that improves patient outcomes, it should be welcomed. But if it's a gimmick, maybe not.
That's true. Yeah. Where do you define for the younger ones? Do you start getting into digital dentistry in the universities if the universities do not allow or does not have the environment for it? Or do you come out and start experimenting? Or where do you get that kind of education that you think we should be getting? Because very often it's still very commercially driven. Yeah. And the commercial driven can sometimes give you
what they need.
Yes. It's a huge perspective of what digital dentistry is all about. And that's why I'm asking you this hard question. And you've been through it, and you're doing it, and you're probably one of the most impartial and truthful, friend that I've ever had. But how
For better or for worse.
for better or for worse, yes. But how do we? I mean, enough of us has gotten into trouble, all right? And
Right.
I just want to share in this podcast that there is hope, and how do we get there? In a better way.
Well, I mean, there are two ways to look at it, right? And this is going to sound very millennial of me, but I'm going to put it out there anyway. It's like the people who started off adopting PC versus Mac. PC users had to stitch together their own ecosystem of products and make it work, especially if they were on a Linux.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, Mac, they have always created an ecosystem that was easy to rapidly adopt multiple things.
Yes.
And they're all synchronized. And so it depends on the user and their ability to learn. So to me, at the dental school level, there's so much to learn already. It's an incredible amount that it's almost organic for them, for most schools to lean towards, okay, well, we can just teach them this one ecosystem, but then now they're stuck with the company.
Yes.
But on the other hand, if they were to piecemeal everything, one, they're getting more prone to technical complication, and they're already overloaded with information to teach, and now there's even more stuff to teach. So we're kind of at a double-edged sword situation where there's no great answer. However, there needs to be some level of exposure at the dental school level just for the sake of awareness. Another comparison I've made is it's a bit like cooking. Unless you've actually learned how to slice a tomato yourself, you can't really just tell the food processor to slice it, because one, you don't know what the slicing needs to look like, and two, you don't know if it's going to do it properly.
That's true.
So, and also the other thing is like there's a certain finesse that you have to learn from the conventional approach, where at least you have to do it a little bit to understand why there's a benefit to digital.
Which means although you firmly believe in digital dentistry, you still think that the analog way of teaching is still necessary.
Yes. It doesn't have to be the entirety, but at least maybe just like the launch pad. This is where he started. That's why we're here. Because without the pretext, it's easy for people to misunderstand why things are being done a certain way.
And that's what's happening around the world with all the digital labs that are forming, and the younger generation designing crowns and not looking like a crown at all.
Right. Like an AI designed crown right now looks a bit like a mushroom.
Yes. Well,
not every time, but
we call it in Asia, it looks like a dumpling, which I'm like, how is that tooth ending up looking like a dumpling?
So, but it's because you know what a tooth needs to look like. If you didn't know what a tooth needed to look like, you'd be like, this is fine.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Because if you don't see it, you don't feel it.
Right.
You never know what it is, because the AI is just doing it for you.
Right.
Yeah.
And the patients are still relying on you to be the steward of their treatment. It shouldn't come down to the patient going, this tooth looks like a marshmallow before you take action. Because it's bad if it's the patient who knows this is first, right?
Yep. I think we're getting towards that direction. Do you think in this next 10 years, where do you think the biggest development is going to be?
Oh, I mean,
okay, the next 1 year, next 5 years, next 10 years.
Okay.
I'm giving you a tough question.
Because I can also make really good stock picks. I'm just kidding. And foresee government currencies fluctuating. But anyway.
Well, it's upside down anyway. So.
And that's why I'm a dentist. Just kidding. But in all fairness, the way I look at it is, the way I assess things is actually looking at how things trend in other industries. Because the dental industry is actually quite small. And so we're usually the later adopters of every technology. For example, photogrammetry. It's been in video games and movies for decades.
That's true.
And it took like 30 years to get to dentistry. And even then, it looks very prototypey.
Yeah.
Okay. With that said, given the current trend towards AI, automation, robotics, that's actually probably dentistry is catching its tailwinds right now. And so the next question there is, okay, how are these things going to tie together to be truly autonomous? Because I don't know if you experienced autonomous driving, but to me, it's a game changer. So in that sense, we have all this technology and it's becoming more accessible to the dental industry. It's just a matter of seeing what else is being automated, especially in the medical fields, that we can start applying to dentistry. As simple as, and some of it is already here, like note taking and things like that. But yeah, I mean, if I had to look into the future, it's not that pros will be out of jobs. Surgeons aren't going to be out of jobs. It's just that our job roles will change because our helpers are going to be robots, software, things like that. And when you look at it from that aspect, it's always coming down to, okay, in a year's time, definitely, probably we won't need to know how to write or type anymore because everything's just automated speech to text. 5 years from now, the robots are probably going to be good enough to prep a crown. But the question is how much it's going to cost.
Yeah, that's the biggest question.
So,
and also whether it can identify you should be prepping on this crown, prepping on this tooth, or you should not be prepping on this tooth.
Right.
Yeah.
Or how deep can it go?
Yeah.
Because radiography still has its limitations that we haven't been able to work around. There's still a lot of limitations that prevent things from being fully autonomous. So probably 5 years out, we'll have the early stages of autonomous drilling protocols and things like that. But even then, it's still going to be people guided. And 10 years from now, who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe we'll have a fleet of robot associates.
Who have robots running around all the clinics.
The robots will do all the intraoral scanning for us.
and you know, patients might just walk in without even seeing someone,
right,
which is already happening in some practices. Yeah, right. It's just initially you don't get to see anyone until you get to see the dentist.
Oh, even better, you mail the patient their own intraoral scanner.
I can see that coming.
Or you give them a 3D printer if they're going through a complex treatment. So every time they break their provisional, they can just
print your own and cement it back up yourself.
Right. I'll see you in a couple of weeks.
I like that one.
Jokes aside.
Hey, it may not be a joke, but in 10 years' time, we might have this episode, by the way. We might have this episode recorded.
To follow up.
Yeah, to follow up. And it's a proof of, we thought about that first. Somebody is as crazy.
Or someone out there watch this and like, let's do that.
Yeah, let's develop that. Which companies should we watch out for in the scanning world?
Oh, I don't know, because it's a big fight out there now. If you were to ask me 5 years ago, I think there were only 2, maybe 3 strong contenders. But if you look at it now, I feel as though it's almost like, autonomous cars and EVs. Depending on what country you're in, you're going to be looking at different brands that are available to you. And if you're able to cross compare them, you might actually go, oh yeah, this country is blowing it out of the water with these brands, while the rest of the world is dealing with that. Because again, we're going back to geographic and regulatory stuff. But because of that, I don't feel comfortable naming brands, just because I only know what I have exposure to. And I do know that because I'm in the US, I don't get exposure to a lot of other products that are available in other places like China, Korea. And I know that they have their own brand sets that are probably blowing everything that the rest of the world has ever seen away. And vice versa, of course. But I would say, that's my answer to that one, because otherwise, it's just going to make me sound way too American.
No. No, but thank you. Thank you for such an interesting session. Coming back to career, and I want to spend a little bit more time on that. How do you define success for the young ones now? And the young ones always look up to you and look up to, the top clinicians around the world and think that that's success. We were just having this conversation about career success. What's the end goal? And is it a clinical success or it's a career success? I always find that the clinical success and career success might be, it doesn't always go
They're not always in tandem.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
That's a great question, because I actually get this question quite frequently. And it took me a while to actually define it for myself as well. So the way I see it is that career success is a culmination of when you close your eyes and think about where you want to be in 5 years professionally, and you actually got there, and hooray, it makes you happy. But it's not defined by a number. It's not defined by any real metric. It's literally just, are you happy with where you are, with what you've done? And for people, it's fame. Other people, it's owning every practice in the world. I don't know. And for me, it just comes down to, am I doing the right thing for the right people, and doing it well enough that I can be financially successful enough to live a happy life and my ends. And I always tell people, if you can envision what that would take, that's what career success
is.
Yeah.
Well, I think for some, career success may be at the expense of family, and for women, it's always a difficult, a difficult topic to talk about. And I think that's something that a lot of people don't address it. And we're in this industry, which is actually majority of the time at the top level. It takes a lot more. It takes a lot of sacrifices. And
Right.
yeah.
Especially because it comes down back to the time issue, right?
Yes.
You have 24 hours in a day. You have to sleep at some point. But yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with that. It's very difficult to create the schedule where you can reach
Accommodate.
happiness, right? And I get that it can be very difficult. And I know it's going to be a bigger and bigger problem over time, especially depending on where you live and what your cultural norms are. But in a lot of cultures, women also have to still take care of a lot of things. So unless they have a really understanding spouse who can compensate for any delta, it can become a struggle. And in the US, actually, majority of the new demo students coming in are actually female.
Yes.
Because they're looking for the luxury of time.
Yeah.
Because that's something that you can't necessarily get in other industries.
That's true. That's true. We're very lucky to be able to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
We're in an industry where, yeah, if you're willing to sacrifice some of your work time, you can actually have it. Because most of us are still in private practice.
So it's still a good career in actual fact. It's still a good career in actual fact. Well, we're getting people burning out at a young age now.
Right.
Yeah. And that's because they look at social media and they feel as if they're not doing well enough. What do you think of that one?
Social media is something I like to remind everyone that social media is where everyone puts their best foot forward. With me being the rare exception once in a while where I show where everything went wrong. The reason is that no one really wants to come off as being incompetent.
Yeah.
And so it gives everyone the false idea that all these other people are doing really, really well 24/7. And I have no issue with people going hard in their first 5-10 years of the career because you have the time, you have the energy, just do it. That way you can get to where you want to be because that's the reality. It takes effort.
Yeah.
And when it comes to social media, it's just a snippet of what happened to someone at some point in time. Because the reality is hopefully no one's going to Truman Show themselves or you're just following them 24/7. But if you were truly to follow any of the most
reality shows now, like in dentistry, oh my goodness.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
But if you truly do follow someone day in, day out, you'll see that not every day is perfect.
Yeah.
And they're okay with it. It's just that they're not going to tell everyone today was a terrible day.
Yeah.
Because the reality is also when you're looking at social media, if you see a really negative post, you don't want to look at it either.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So it's easy to put yourself in a tunnel, especially with the way algorithms work, where you only see certain things. And if you're feeling down on yourself and you're exposed to the wrong type of media for that entire day, then it's easy to feel incompetent or inadequate. When in reality, you've just gone down a hole.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've been bringing up this social media topic in our podcast a lot. I still believe that there is positive and negative side. It has driven a lot of people to improve themselves and do better as well. We've taught things online. It's just that it's so hard to differentiate what's right and what's wrong and what's correct, what's not right. And that's why I'm pushing you to, is there a place that we can stay safe? Is there a place that we should be looking out for? Is there something that allows people to pick things up much easier? They're showing cases that are completely complex but done in just a split second. And as if everything is so easy. Yeah.
Are you calling me out on my 30-second reel now? Just kidding. No, that's a very valid point because the way I look at it is that you can treat social media in multiple ways. The way I see it is that it should serve as almost a launch pad or a point of inspiration where it brings awareness about certain things, but it shouldn't be necessarily considered the source of fact. So it'd be like us having conversation about the latest trends in bottled water and which one's the best brand out there. The reality is that if you're truly inquisitive, you go, that's an interesting question. I am going to go and look up every single brand on the planet and see what's in every single bottle and then choose for myself. But it's more human to go, oh, well, I trust this person's judgment. So if they say that this brand of bottled water is the best, that has to be it. So it's the same effect there where it should serve as a point of inspiration to bring product awareness or technique awareness, whatever it is that is that inspires that person, but it should just be the tipping point that drives our curiosity into a grander scale. And that's where they should be seeking more reliable information, which takes us to the next problem. How do you determine what's reliable information in this current day and age?
That's a hard one. That's a hard one. I mean, I've been asking these questions throughout my podcast is because I mean, we are all trying to find the answers. We want to guide people in as positive a way as possible and let them have the possibility of getting inspired, helping us solve the problems. Because I don't think we have all the answers at this moment of time.
And there's other reality is that we're in clinical practice because it's practice. It's constant optimization. Yeah. So what might have been the right answer yesterday, 5 years ago, 10 years ago might not be the right answer today. And we should look at data the same way, or whatever information is available from the internet. It might be correct in that instant of time. However, it might not apply to every situation you can imagine. So another thought process that I had recently is that maybe instead of just rote learning that we teach in dental school because of the pure amount of information available now, perhaps it should be more like specialty training where they teach you how to read data and filter for yourself what's reliable and what's not.
Yeah, I think you're right about that because in specialty training, we are trained to analyze data and look at things differently. Whereas in dental school, you're trained to learn the techniques, follow a cookbook, have a recipe, stay safe, do the right thing for patients.
And pass your boards.
Pass your boards, that's right. Pass your boards, oh my God, that's another one. Yeah, but that's a very interesting point. If we can change it around and have a little bit of what we learn in specialty training and bring it down to the undergrad level.
Where you're trying to teach critical thinking, which almost sounds paradoxical.
Which is hard, you know.
Yeah.
I'm beginning to, I mean, to us, many things are logical, but to some of the younger ones nowadays, it may not be logical because they have not seen what was being done before.
Right.
And that's where we are missing this part.
Right.
Yeah.
And then also you look at how quickly things change. We're at this point in time where things are changing faster than research studies will ever be able to catch up.
Yeah. The science world cannot catch up at all.
One of my favorite things to remind everyone is that by the time a research paper comes out, odds are the product is already 3 years old.
Yep.
And how many iPhone generations have come in that time?
And it doesn't matter whether the iPhone is working properly or
not.
Whether
it's there.
It's there.
But unfortunately, when it comes to dentistry, that means you've done something already.
Yeah.
And because of that, that's why it takes me back to going, okay, maybe we should just go back to teaching people about how to assess data and understand what good data looks like. Because it also bleeds into digital dentistry, where when they send data off to the lab for processing, it's the same thing.
They come back and they don't know how to read it, and they assume that whatever was planned is correct. And that's where the issue is coming from. Last few questions for the patients. Patients see a lot on social media and they now come in and say, I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this, because I see it. And how do you think patients can decide, or to the public, it's impossible? And they just have to look at credentials, or do they have to look at the problems they have? But everyone wants the best treatment for themselves.
Right.
That's why they're doing research online, they're doing research on social media. And sometimes, nowadays, 10 years ago, now we get patients coming in asking me, I want a stem cell. Now,
just one.
Yeah. I'm like, what's a stem cell? One. Yeah, that's right. But people are doing that because, oh, by the way, I saw the tooth can grow out of the plate now and I want to have that. Yeah.
So honestly, I feel as though patients are a lot like other fellow dentists who are on social media, where they see that iota or that blip in time that resonates with them. And to me, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's another double-edged sword where, one, great, they're aware of it. It can be an opportunity to expand the patient's own understanding of how things work. On the other hand, yes, I also see how it can also introduce a lot of misinformation that now you're working against. And what it comes down to is that the patients are using the same search engines we are, so we can't really blame them.
Yeah.
And if someone can And some people are just really good at being really convincing.
Yes.
And so what are you going to do about that? You can't do a whole lot. And so from my perspective, it's going to come down to your local reputation in the community. Because, for example, for me, I'm a referral-based practice. And as long as I do good work, even if the patients aren't just running around town telling every single person who did their work, when the opportunity arises, they do bring in their friends or family. And in doing so, that's how you create that circle of trust where people are more open with discussing what they're seeing, what's actually achievable, and in a very professional way.
Yeah. That just means that dentistry, we still have to go back to science, our profession, our experience, and what goes on, and make the best biological functional choice for the patient. And the digital world, it's almost like an adjunct.
Right.
It's like a tool that makes things faster, more accurate, more predictable, but it doesn't replace that part of dentistry. Yeah.
Because there is that, at the end of the day, I would argue that probably 15% of dentistry is really truly evidence-based. The other 85%,
it's an art.
Yeah. Of being able to read the patient and their situation and be able to create the right outcome for them.
And the best outcome that's possible.
Right.
We're given what you have and given the conditions that you have. Any last words for the young one? How should they start their career path after dental school? And should they specialize? Should they not specialize? And how do we learn so many things that we need to learn?
Well, for one thing, don't make up statistics like me. I totally made up that 15% just now.
I like that one. Well, we have to remember that.
Just like our social media discussion just now. But that aside, I would say that if you just keep focusing on what makes you happy and what you feel like you do well at, then you can focus on that, and eventually it'll lead you to a happier career. Because if you're just chasing after everything that you see on social media, it's no different from chasing clothing trends, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So just keep following what makes you happy and what sustains you and fills your cup. That's it.
All right. Thank you. Well, the reason why Dental Optimist started is because in 1960s, when a Danish designer designed this Optimist, it was to make every day a little bit more joyful.
Oh.
And that, I hope, and you bring so much joy to all of us around the world, and especially me.
Thank
and
you.
This is just to remind you that you're always welcome here in Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur, and that we.
Thank you.
This is hopefully your second home. That we
hope. Really cute.
Yeah, it is. It is really cute, and I'm so blessed to have you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
No, thank you.